Let me tell you about Rose Blumkin, an extraordinary woman. She sold her company to Berkshire Hathaway for tens of millions of dollars, starting with just $2,500. But how does someone who couldn't read, couldn't write, had no groundbreaking technology, and no significant investment achieve such remarkable success? There's a common thread not everyone knows about. Let's explore the business philosophy behind these extraordinary journeys. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an inspiring story like this. So, without further ado, let's begin. Warren Buffett stepped onto the stage to the sound of thunderous applause from thousands in the audience. As the clapping subsided, he scanned the room, his eyes bright with enthusiasm. "You know," he began, his voice warm and magnetic, "the people I'm about to tell you about share something in common." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. They knew they could do it. They believed they could break through any limit. And most importantly, they were willing to dedicate time and effort to improve themselves. The room fell silent, with every ear tuned to his words. Let me tell you about Rose Blumkin, an extraordinary woman. She sold her company to me for tens of millions of dollars. But her journey began with just $2,500. Buffett smiled softly, as if recalling a fond memory. She came to America in 1917. She didn't speak English. She couldn't read. She couldn't write. When she stepped off the ship in Seattle, she wore a tag around her neck that read, "Fort Dodge, Iowa." The Red Cross helped her get there, reuniting her with her husband. But life wasn't easy. She felt like an outsider, unable to learn English, often calling herself a dummy. In 1919, Rose and her husband decided to move to Omaha, where a small community of Russian Jews lived. There, she began to feel a sense of belonging, but life was still far from easy. Every day, her eldest daughter, Frances, would return home from school and teach her the words she had learned. Rose picked up the language slowly, word by word, day by day. Buffett paused again, as if giving the audience time to picture her perseverance in those early days of struggle. But what made Rose extraordinary wasn't her ability to learn English. It was her tireless work ethic, saving every penny she earned for 20 years. She sold used clothing, sending $50 at a time to bring her family from Russia to America. And by 1937, she had saved her life's fortune, $2,500. Buffett's eyes grew distant, his voice tinged with admiration. She couldn't read. She couldn't write. But she had a dream, to open a furniture store. I'll tell you how Rose turned $2,500 into $1 billion empire. But first, think about this. How does someone with no advantages manage to achieve that? The room was silent. Everyone was wondering the same thing. How did she do it? Buffett continued, his eyes lighting up as he mentioned a familiar name. Rose Blumkin, or Mrs. B as we called her, was a living testament to perseverance and unshakable determination. Keep this in mind. She never went to school, had no formal business knowledge, and couldn't read or write. But she had something very few people possess, an unwavering resolve. Buffett recounted, in 1937, after 20 years of saving every penny, she had $2,500, her entire life savings. With that money, Rose went to Chicago and bought a few pieces of furniture. Her dream had always been to open a furniture store, a place where she could personally serve her customers. The audience seemed to hold their breath, picturing a small, immigrant woman carrying a big dream to a bustling city. Rose had no advantages. She had no advertising, no sophisticated business strategy. She followed one simple principle: serve your customers better than anyone else. Buffett emphasized, his tone firm. She didn't worry about pricing or chasing high profits. She cared about making her customers feel welcome and respected. The challenges came early on. Her store was small and not in a prime location. She didn't have the capital to stock a large inventory. And customers back then weren't accustomed to an immigrant running a business. But Rose didn't give up. She worked tirelessly day and night. If an item was defective, she repaired it herself. If a customer needed help, she made sure to step in personally. Buffett continued, his tone now laced with a bit of humor. People often ask me, how did she build a furniture store from nothing? I tell them, She sold at razor-thin margins, almost no profit at all. But she succeeded because her customers kept coming back. She built relationships with every single buyer. And when you serve customers with your heart, they never forget. Rose's business continued to grow. Customers traveled from all over not just to buy furniture, but to experience her warmth and personal touch. She couldn't read or write, but she could negotiate with anyone. I've heard stories where if someone tried to haggle, she'd say, "No, I need money to live too." And the customer would laugh, then pay the full price. In 1983, Rose Blumkin sold her company to Warren Buffett for about $60 million. Buffett reflected, "I didn't buy her company because it had the best-looking furniture or the most sophisticated business model. I bought it because I admired her spirit. Rose worked for me until she was 103 years old, and just 1 year after retiring, she passed away." Buffett paused, his gaze full of emotion. From $2,500, she built a billion-dollar business. She didn't achieve it through luck. She achieved it with a very simple philosophy. Make your customers feel welcome. He smiled. "I've never seen anyone succeed without delighting their customers." And Rose is the clearest example of that. Warren Buffett paused briefly, his eyes lighting up with excitement as he transitioned to the next story. "Now, let me tell you about Jack Taylor. He was a very special man. He didn't have a fancy degree or any major advantage to start with. Yet, Jack built the largest car rental company in America, starting with just 17 cars. Jack was born in 1922 in the Midwest. As a young man, he was a decent athlete, but wasn't fond of school. After just 1 year of college, Jack dropped out. It was 1941, the year the U.S. was attacked, and Jack immediately volunteered for the Army Air Corps. But they turned him down because of his hay fever. Buffett's voice grew more animated as he continued. Undeterred, Jack turned to the Navy, and they accepted him. He was assigned to the aircraft carrier USS Enterprise, and during World War II, Jack flew small fighter planes. For his bravery, he was awarded 2 Distinguished Flying Crosses. But Jack's real story began when he returned home after the war. Back in the Midwest, Jack tried various jobs before finding his footing at a Cadillac dealership in St. Louis, Missouri. He started as a used car salesman, but always wanted to do more. At 35, after working his way up, Jack decided to venture into car rentals. Buffett recounted with a touch of humor. Jack approached his boss and said, "I want to start a car rental company with you." His boss agreed, but under 2 conditions. Jack had to cut his salary in half, and he had to come up with $25,000 to invest. Jack borrowed the money, and his first company launched with just 7 cars. In the early days, things weren't easy. The office phone hardly rang, so Jack came up with a humorous way to seem busy. Whenever the phone rang, he let it ring a few times before answering, to make customers think he was swamped with calls. The audience erupted in laughter, but everyone understood the struggles of a humble beginning. At 40, Jack realized he needed to make a change. Drawing on his experience selling cars, he decided to enter the self-drive rental business, a fiercely competitive field. Jack started with just 17 cars. He was up against giants like Hertz, Avis, and National, companies with hundreds of thousands of cars in prime airport locations. Jack couldn't compete on the number of cars or their quality. They were all the same. But he knew he could make a difference by serving his customers better than anyone else. Buffett recounted, he wasn't just renting cars. He was creating a welcoming and friendly experience for every customer. Jack named the company after the aircraft carrier USS Enterprise, where he had served during the war. And that's how Enterprise Rent-A-Car was born. Jack accomplished something no one thought possible. When he passed away about 1.5 years ago, his company had grown larger than all its competitors combined, including Hertz and Avis. Enterprise started with just 17 cars. But today, it's the largest car rental company in America. Buffett concluded the story with a gentle smile. Jack proved that you don't need a big advantage to succeed. What you need is to focus on your customers and continuously improve. Customers might forget the price, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Warren Buffett stood still for a moment after finishing Jack Taylor's story. He looked out at the audience, his eyes filled with silent admiration. I've shared with you the journeys of Rose Blumkin and Jack Taylor not because they were extraordinary from the start. They didn't have any special advantages, no groundbreaking technology, no massive investments. But they understood one critical truth. The customer is everything. Buffett's voice slowed, resonating with meaning. Rose didn't have the fanciest furniture store. Jack didn't offer cars that were different from Hertz or Avis. But they both understood that success comes from one simple thing: making customers happy when they walk into your store or rent your car. Buffett paused, letting the words settle. Then he asked, "Do you know what brings customers back?" He looked around the room, making eye contact with the audience. It's not the lowest price. It's not the prettiest product. What brings customers back is how you treat them. Buffett's tone grew stronger. I don't remember how much I paid for this tie. In fact, someone might have given it to me. But I do remember how I was treated when I got it. You'll forget the price, but you'll never forget the experience. If your customers feel happy and valued, they'll return. If they feel ignored or disrespected, they won't. Buffett transitioned to a crucial point. How can you ensure every customer has a great experience when you can't serve all of them yourself? He smiled knowingly, the answer already clear in his mind. You have to scale your values through your team, and to do that, you must treat your employees with fairness and respect. When your team feels valued, they will pass that value on to your customers. Buffett looked around the room, as if speaking directly to each individual. I always advise young people to seek out those they admire. Surround yourself with people who are better than you, those you can learn from. I've been fortunate throughout my life to work with people who were better than me. They helped me improve, not just in business, but also in life. Buffett shared a grounded yet deeply insightful view. I once heard someone say, "You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." If you surround yourself with positive, kind, and capable people, you'll improve continuously. But if you choose the wrong people, they'll pull you down. He paused, then added softly, "Choose your business partners, your life partner, and your friends carefully. They will shape who you become." Buffett returned to the stories of the two remarkable individuals. Rose Blumkin and Jack Taylor are perfect examples. They didn't let circumstances hold them back. They focused on what they could control and never stopped learning from those around them. Buffett wrapped up this segment with a resonant takeaway. You don't need to be the smartest person. You don't need to be the richest. What you need is to focus on core values, delighting customers, building a strong team, and learning from those who are better than you. He paused, his smile filled with meaning. If you do these things, success will find you. After sharing the lessons from Rose Blumkin and Jack Taylor, Warren Buffett posed a profound question to the audience. Have you ever wondered what truly determines success? It's not about how much capital you have. It's not about the first big idea you come up with. He paused again, his gaze steady as if encouraging the audience to reflect. Success depends on how you handle the challenges life throws at you. And most importantly, do you keep moving forward after every failure? Buffett revisited a well-known example. Did you know Henry Ford failed twice before founding the Ford Motor Company in 1903? Those failures weren't small. They nearly left him penniless. But Ford didn't give up. He learned from his mistakes and found a way to do better. He continued, his voice firm. Jack Taylor was the same. When he started with just 7 cars, the business didn't grow as quickly as he hoped. He came up with creative ways to seem busy, from letting the phone ring a few times before answering to pretending he had customers waiting. But he never gave up. He understood that early mistakes were just stepping stones to learn and grow. Buffett smiled as he shared. I once went to Florida to convince Jack to sell his company to Berkshire Hathaway. He turned me down. And you know what? That was the absolutely right decision. Since that day, Jack's company has quadrupled in value. He paused, his voice lowering for emphasis. The lesson here is clear. You don't need to get it right the first time. What matters is what you learn from those failures and how you move forward. Buffett shared a crucial philosophy. You can't control the financial markets. You can't control the decisions of the Federal Reserve. But you can control how you treat your customers. And you can control how you improve yourself every day. He paused, his tone softening. Rose Blumkin never worried about market prices going up or down. She focused on one thing, making her customers happy. Jack Taylor didn't try to compete on the number of cars. He focused on delivering the best possible experience to his customers. Buffett emphasized an important takeaway. Do you know what truly made Rose and Jack valuable? They didn't need more capital. They didn't rely on luck. All they did was build their businesses on core values. And they never stopped improving from within. Buffett looked around the room, as though addressing each person directly. When you're building a business, remember this. Success doesn't come from having the biggest or most innovative idea. It comes from focusing on what you can control. Make your customers feel valued. Treat your team with fairness. And most importantly, always learn and keep improving yourself. Buffett ended his story, his eyes filled with admiration for the figures he had shared. I admire Rose Blumkin for never letting hardships hold her back. I admire Jack Taylor for refusing to accept failure. And I admire all of you here today, because I know your greatest success is still ahead of you. He paused, then smiled warmly, before closing with an inspiring message. Always believe in yourself. And remember, the best is yet to come. Now, let's reflect on what we've just experienced. Rose Blumkin, who couldn't read or write, but built a billion-dollar empire from $2,500. Jack Taylor, who started with just 17 cars and outpaced the giants of the industry. They didn't have magic. They didn't have massive advantages. But they proved that success comes from perseverance, focusing on value, and treating people the right way. These journeys are reminders that you, too, can achieve something extraordinary, as long as you keep believing in yourself. Stay tuned for more inspiring stories in our upcoming videos. Don't forget to share and hit subscribe to spread this inspiration to even more people. Wishing you nothing but the best in life.